Hello and welcome to the Whimsical Wonder release. I'm sharing several cards on the Altenew blog, and in this video I'll share how to create this easy watercolor plus inks combination card. This is Creative Coloring with Iram, and I'll be showcasing the Meadow Bush Layering Stencil set paired with the Meadow Bush Die Set, some Altenew Crisp Dye Inks, and the fabulous detailed blending brushes. Let me first show you the layering stencils really quickly. There are 4 stencils in this set, and I have said this quite a few times now. I do love the layering coloring stencils. They make creating cards so much easier and faster. I'll use the cherry blossom inks and start with the florals there because they do look like cherry blossoms to me. I'm really no flower expert. I'm not even a flower novice really, but hey, these are my cherry blossoms. So I am using the Pinkalicious Crisp Dye Ink for my base layer, and you will notice that I won't really worry too much about the coverage. So my ink is going to be properly blended in some places, and in some places I'm just going to do it with a little lighter hand. This will add to the variation among the florals without switching the inks. Once done, I'll heat set it. You don't have to do this step of heat setting, but I've developed a habit of drawing between layers to get crisp stamping and ink blends. Next, I'll place my second layer of stencil and secure this down with glue tape, which I absolutely love. I'll now use Versamark and my detailed blending brush to apply Versamark through the stencil. And I prayed to God before doing this that it doesn't ruin my blending brush, and it didn't. I used the same unwashed detailed blending brush later on to apply brown. So the next step is to pour over translucent pearl embossing powder. I'm actually following the same steps as mentioned on the packaging. I just swapped the ink pads from the blues to the pinks. Then I'll heat set the embossing powder. Can you see it changing color? It looks really pretty in person. It looks peach in person, and it is so cool. Now placing the third stencil, and these are easy to align by the way. I'll use a Razzleberry Crisp Dye Ink for this layer. Again, I'll be very heavy-handed in some places and not so much in some. Then on to the last one. Once this is in place, I'll use the same detailed blending brush with the Versamark still on there. You can wipe it off on a tissue paper, but I wasn't too worried about it. I applied Mocha as my main color. For the branch, I will try to keep the connecting points darker. By connecting points, I mean where the branch and flowers are joining or where the leaves are joining. Then I'll further enhance or darken these connecting points by using Espresso Dye Ink. Because we just have one layer of this area, that is the branch, the leaves and the flower centers, so use those detailed blending brushes to add as much detail as you can. Now I wasn't too happy by adding just Espresso Crisp Dye Ink. For me it just wasn't dark enough. So I picked out dark chocolate crisp dye ink from the 4 scoops set, and this made quite a bit of difference. Just look at that. Just a little bit of effort, but so much worth it, right? Now I'll die cut the image. If you look at the dies, you can even pop up the flowers separately, but I won't be doing that today. I have my A2 watercolor panel in front of me, and I'll smush some of the Pinkalicious, Razzleberry and dark chocolate inks onto the palette. I'll then apply water onto the lower portions of the panel and also a bit on the right hand side edge. Then I'll drop in diluted pigment of Pinkalicious to see where my color would go and how much of it I would need. Once I figured it out, I'll add Razzleberry to this, but keeping it on the lighter side. If you think you have added too much color or you don't like it in some areas, use your tissue to sop up the pigment. Now I'll start adding the brown, which is dark chocolate, and I noticed that it was giving me a peachy tone which matched my heat embossed areas. And what a coincidence this was, but it looks absolutely beautiful. I also added a bit of mocha to my palette as I still needed a bit of brown. I love this part of creating backgrounds. They always are unplanned, and especially using inks as watercolors, you get a lot of surprises as a pigment separates or reacts differently to water and completely change shade. I did cover this in my Altenew Academy class where I colored a background with dye inks, and the result is quite beautiful. Once I've finished working on it, I'll dry the panel and add light brown splatters and then some dark brown splatters. On cream colored panel, I used paints from the metallic 14 Pan Watercolor Set, then heat set it with my heat tool. I chose the sentiment from Bouquet of Love stamp set. Then I stamped the sentiment in Obsidian Ink. I've cut my sentiment tab and now I'll adhere this thin strip of gold glitter cardstock onto the bottom edge. My card was complete, but I thought it lacked gold, so I used that only flowers die from the Meadow Bush Die Set that I said I wouldn't be using, and I selectively die cut a few flowers out of gold glitter cardstock. Now some of these are not complete, half-cut pieces, but it's okay. We are going to use them as offsets to the original die cut image here, so we don't need full or complete flower layers. I will also adhere these to only a few flowers and not all of them. Once I have stuck all those little gold pieces, I'll obviously add fine black paint splatters. For those of you who don't know yet, that circular pan is from the Essentials 12 Pan Watercolor Set. Then I'll adhere my image with foam tape and then adhere the sentiment with foam tape too. It was killing me not to have anything white on there. Even my label is colored and I stopped myself from adding white splatters. So I added gold splatters instead. To finish, I adhered a few antique gold sequins, and doesn't it look just lovely? If you like clean and simple cards, I'd suggest skipping the watercolor background. Or if you want a little less work but still like to add a bit of watercolor, then add ink smooshing to the background as it's faster. Here is another example using the Meadow Bush stencil and detailed blending brushes. I have more inspiration for you on the blog, including a sleepy cat, that's my nephew's current favorite stamp, plus a colorful floral card. We also have a lot of prizes, so see you there. Link is in the description. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Hello there, did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.